I'm Ian Knott. I'm the CEO of Xuron. For me, one of the most exciting parts about doing this is bringing something to life. Startups are kind of like alchemy. Products are like alchemy. If you have this cauldron, the right magic and the right technique, you can turn dirt into gold. And it's extremely hard to do, but it's one of the most rewarding things in the world. The team has actually been working together for over a decade. Through many lives lived in the past, we actually came out of the extended reality space, where now as today we see Meta and these other players that are still fighting to sort of create and win this new market. For us, we wanted to really focus on accessibility. And we knew how hard it is to drive both sales as well as a broad set of users who are daily engaging with a XR device. So that alone creates so much headwind and so much pain, where you as the software creator who are just trying to make something great that everybody can pick up and use and everybody can love. And when you're limiting it in such a fashion, you're automatically just almost devaluing your solution. It's hard to say that. Spatial computing is definitely the future and there's so much yet to come, but if you want to build a great business and ultimately a great product that the largest group of people can use, you need to kind of take a serious look at how you're deploying it. For Xuron, we decided to go with iOS, Android, and web. So every Xuron course, no matter what device you're using it on, is accessible across all three of those mediums.
What gets me the most excited about Xuron is our focus on one of the most fundamental skills of a clinician, the ability to relate to patients, family members, and caregivers, with the end goal of improved patient outcomes.
I just think in the healthcare space, there's a lot of room for innovation.
Medical education and healthcare historically has had a lot of resistance to change. Anytime a new technology comes on the market, it always takes many years, sometimes even decades, to implement into practice.
Personally, for me, I always tell this story of I've had like a biometric lock on my door since maybe like 2004. It wasn't always about the gadget. It wasn't about newest technologies. It was about solving a problem for me. I just kept locking myself out of my house. So this was a simple way for me to actually take the technology and be able to apply it so that I'm actually able to get inside my house. Same thing here. We're talking about being able to train doctors better, being able to have them actually interact with patients and not just look at it from just this disciplined approach, but rather about how do we actually get the point across so that as a patient, you can actually understand what it is, whether it's a certain condition that you have, treatment option that you need to go for, how are you solving all of these? Or what can you do on the preventative side? We just want to make sure that doctors are actually taking a very considerate approach without it all being language that they speak in.
What Xuron does is provide the ability to essentially practice these patient-centered skills anytime, anywhere, as many times as one desires.
When you talk about product market fit, you talk about building something that actually drives real value and creates positive change in people's lives. Those difficult conversations, those challenging scenarios that we've all had or maybe had family members go through, Xuron at the core is really about helping people using high fidelity simulation, qualitative and quantitative data along the way to both let people experience these challenging scenarios and also measure their competency and knowledge gained as they go through them.
In this space, innovation is constantly looked at, but how do you actually have this happy medium so that you're actually taking technologies that can actually be applied today?
Right now, medical education is facing a very interesting time.
At the very core of those training courses, at the very core of Xuron is virtual humans.
The stars are aligning. A lot of the educators and administrators within medical education are very open and excited about implementing a lot of these new technologies.
So when we actually look at this, we look at it from the preventative side to the treatment side to the maintenance side. Whether it's a particular treatment, a conversation that we need to have with somebody so that they know what's about to happen in a surgical procedure, for instance. When you're in a doctor's office, they talk in this medical jargon. It's not something that's easily understandable for a patient. A lot of times gets them very nervous. If you can actually at least give them more context behind it in language that they understand, that makes it a lot easier.
Our two main customer segments are what's called MECs, or medical education companies. These tend to be the folks who will go out and create projects for things like pharmaceutical companies or life science companies in order to educate HCPs. Think about like the yearly credits that doctors and nurses, et cetera, across the US have to earn. It's really exciting because you talk about relaying new information around a drug, how to manage side effects of a drug, lifestyle changes, et cetera. Very interesting to be a part of that ecosystem of training. On the other side, you have the academic customers, the medical academic institutions training the next generation of HCPs yet to come. Across the board, you have actors. that all of these universities will have to hire and retain, and it's very expensive.
Historically, the way that patient-centered skills have been taught to students, whether you're in medical school, nursing school, physical therapy school, is through the use of patient actors or standardized patients. Generally, within a curriculum, a student may have access to a standardized patient maybe a handful of times throughout the year. Under normal circumstances, there is a lot of anxiety from a learner perspective because they're trying to keep all of these mind maps in mind. So when they actually get into a room with a standardized patient, they want to keep track of everything they need to say. Due to the fact of this high stress environment, I don't think they're getting the most out of that experience. What we are essentially doing is taking that process and digitizing it. Now, a medical student or a nursing student has the ability to practice a specific scenario, a specific skill set as many times as they want, anytime, anywhere, with the goal of arriving to that standardized patient encounter already having a specific mind map in place so they get the most out of that experience.
Many of us have played with ChatGPT and all of these things. When you just isolate the virtual human component from what we're doing, the idea that you can create any character that has any sort of complex background and rich history, persona, across the range of things like age and weight and ethnic background, all of these layers that make up in this broad, diverse set of patients that we have. The idea that you can create virtual humans to create these scenarios to teach empathy and to teach communication, that is a really cool place where you can apply the technology for a positive result.
Today what you have is these traditional approaches or methods of medical education, and we actually just want to improve upon that incrementally rather than actually taking them to a whole new level. Even though behind the scenes we're using artificial intelligence, it's something that as a consumer, and in this case I'm talking about either a doctor, a medical student that's coming out, they don't actually need to understand the technology that's behind it. It's rather a natural interaction that they can have with a simulated patient in order to better communicate and make it more effective for somebody to understand basically both their knowledge as well as the compassion behind how they actually deliver the information.
Hi Samantha, this is Dr. Rosenfeld here. How are you doing today?
I'm hanging in there, but I've been feeling a bit off lately, especially with the side effects from the higher dose of my medication.
I'm not very happy to hear that you're experiencing some of the side effects of the medication. I'd love to get to the bottom of this. Can you tell me exactly what you're experiencing?
Certainly. Since starting the higher dose of semaglutide about a month ago, I've been feeling nauseous quite often, which to some extent I expected, but it's been more pronounced than I thought it would be.
I completely understand, Samantha. Are there any foods that make the nausea worse?
It doesn't seem tied to any particular foods or times of day. I've tried eating bland foods and smaller, more frequent meals, thinking it might help, but the nausea still comes and goes. I'm starting to think it might just be my body adjusting to the medication, but it's hard to be sure.
Samantha, I would like for us to decrease your semaglutide dose from 2.4 milligrams to 1.7 milligrams, and this will allow us to monitor how you're doing, and it will also give your body a chance to get used to the medication over the next month, and then we'll reassess. How does that sound to you?
That sounds like a good plan. Thank you for understanding, Dr. Rosenfeld. It helps to talk through it and try to piece things together.